Hello, it's Scott Manley here, and today I'm returning to the rather beautiful lines of this Imperial cutter in Elite Dangerous. So what I'm actually going to look at is the Elite Dangerous 2.2.03 beta update. Now normally I wouldn't be interested in a beta update, because a small patch like this, but it's actually there's quite a lot of significant changes to combat balance. And as part of the beta process, they've basically made it really easy for anyone with beta access to get in and get access to any spacecraft they like, including, for example, the top tier Imperial spacecraft, the Gutayama Imperial cutter. This thing is gorgeous, but you need to grind out so many Imperial missions that it leaves a bad taste in the mouth, what with all those slaves and, well, bad tasting delicacies the Imperials like. So yeah, everybody has access to Marco Quent, and if we I'm at Sirius, which, if you know, that's the one that you have to work hard for. You have to grind to get a permit, and then you have to grind for modular terminals, and then you get access to them, and you have to grind a little more to get rank 5. Well, they've made that super easy. In fact, they've made it so easy that if you are on the other side of the galaxy, you can literally just restart a new game and you will return to this location with 1 billion credits. And not just 1 billion credits, let's be realistic as well. This is a beta and you're going to be expected to lose ships. Every ship is here and it is super cheap. Sidewinder, Eagle, Hauler, Adder, Imperial Eagle Mark III, Cobra Mark III, Viper Mark IV, Diamondback, Cobra Mark IV. Yes, everything is here. That's again only for the beta players. You don't need to grind any Imperial or Federal rank, so you can try out these fits if you like. Now, on top of this, we have the Engineer's Workshop, which and the outfitting. Outfitting has everything, and what I want to do actually is build an Imperial Eagle that is fit for speed, and we'll talk about some of the other stuff because, well, the Imperial Eagle is the fastest thing in the game. So let's build that. We're going to store my current 18 million credit ship, which is of course a bargain compared to what we have in the main game, in the actual real game. It's not just expensive in terms of cost, but expensive in the amount of time that it takes to get it all together. So let's just go to the outfitting first. We're going to have to do some changes here. So they have basically every single module available for you, which is great. It also includes some of the weird stuff that you can only get through Powerplay. Powerplay actually is having a few changes to it, but I haven't really paid attention to that. I'm mostly looking at the changes to engineering and the changes to ship fitting. One of the big changes to engineering, is that you no longer require commodities for any of the recipes. So in the past you would require things like modular terminals, and you would get some and those would have to sit in your cargo hold forever. Well, now you don't need to do that. So first thing I'm going to do, of course, is get rid of all my bits and pieces, because we do not want any of these. These will just add mass, but I will actually buy some stuff, because I'm going to need some cargo space. While I'm here, might also want to talk about module reinforcements. Module reinforcements are a new module which has appeared. So it's possible, in the past it was possible to fly around using no shields and just use armor. And people liked that style because you could be more stealthy, but missiles became much better at killing things, at killing your modules. So they have added module reinforcement as an option for people that want to go without shields, go commando style or whatever. So I'm putting cargo racks on this because the reason is that while I have access to all the engineer recipes, we are going to need a place to store some commodities. Just temporarily, don't worry. Once again, cargo racks. Buy those. Exchange. It doesn't really matter. We just need to have enough room. So to enable all the engineering to be done at will, they needed to pick a generic commodity that could be bought by anyone, anywhere. Let's also modify my core internal. Power plant. So the power plant, we want to get the lightest power plant possible, so I downsized to a 2D. And that should still give me enough power because I've stripped everything off. The thrusters, of course, you want to go for the best thrusters. And you don't just go for 3A, you go for 3A enhanced performance that just go way off the chart. These are the best things you can get. Frameshift drive. Well, sadly, you really want to go for the lightest, which means you pretty much can't jump very far out of this system. The life support, again, D class is always the lightest and easiest. The power distributor, you can actually get away with a 1D power distributor because the only thing you're going to care about with this is the ability to boost your engines. Sensors become D class again, the lightest of the sensors. The lightest modules are always the D class. And the fuel tank, it doesn't matter so much, but we could go with a downsized fuel tank if we wanted to save a bit of mass right now. So that's our basic setup here. Now we're going to go and do some engineering. So we're going to go to the commodities market and buy that all-important commodity that Marco Quent wants. Fish. He's obsessed with fish. He's going to be studying fish in the environment around the pulsar that is the white dwarf that is Sirius B. And of course, using the joystick here, I could have just used the mouse, but that would have been faster. That would have been, you know, cheating, right? So yes, Marco Quent is an ex-Sirius Corp tech guru. He can do everything. And so we're going to need to modify everything here. First thing, of course, is we want to get dirty drive tuning to the maximum. And we just, of course, click view and generate. And of course, it'll start to do this whole bouncy thing, but you can just click to finish it off. And at this point, you're going to be doing this for everything. And your main game, or your main aim, is in this case you want to get the numbers really good, but for everything else you want to get any bonuses that decrease their mass. Now, to be clear, not every module has an option that decreases the mass. However, they can all get bonuses via the secondary effects. Now, in this case, for the frameshift drive, I'm getting optimized mass. That isn't what I want. That just improves my frameshift. I get a negative bonus there, a penalty to my mass. But this one's giving me a bonus to power draw. Come on, I want something that gives me better mass. Yes! Finally got a 2% reduction in mass. Okay, we're going to apply that. Okay. Whew. Okay, so after throwing enough fish at Marco Quent to deplete galactic fish stocks, we are up to 881 meters per second top boost speed. So let's see how this magnificent eagle flies. So the first thing I think I'll do is I'll just see how fast it flies with landing gear down, because of course landing gear down is supposed to be the slow speed for carefully navigating your way onto the pad. And I had the throttle forwards all the way. This thing took off a little too fast for me. Okay, 320, 330 with gear down. That is faster than most spacecraft with gear up. Under boost in some cases. Let's flip this thing. Oh, look at the smoke trails. Right, let's buzz the tower. Ghost Rider, this is Ghost Rider requesting tower flyby. Let me see. 806 or 661. 830, 50. Oh, man. Of course. We really shouldn't be judging the speed near to a planetary surface, because it is possible to abuse gravity to get speeds up even higher. 862. Okay, let's actually take this out to space to see how fast I can make it move. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna buzz the O'Brien vision. Give them a vision of what real speed looks like. Get ready to boost. 600, 700, 800, 850. We're gonna need to boost again, I think. Sorry, we didn't give you maximum speed there. Just wait a second. 800, oh, 862. Come on, we gotta go a little faster. Man, I need a better power distributor now. I need more boosting. Curse me for undersizing my power distributor. I just can't give the ship the power she needs. There we go, though. We hit it. We hit it just for a brief moment. 881. Come on. Show me what you got, baby. Show me what you got. 881. 881. Fastest ship in Elite Dangerous until somebody goes and engineers a better one. Of course, veteran Elite players will know that you can abuse gravity to get more speed out of your system than the max cap will allow. Here we go. Here I am going at 2156. Sliding towards the surface of Persephone, a 2G world on the outer edge, and I am gonna have to pull out so I avoid this mountain. And as soon as I pull out, notice my velocity just starts bleeding off here. I'm flying this, of course, with flight assist off, because flight assist off lets you go faster, basically. It lets you turn faster, lets you go faster. It is the only way to fly if you're a pro. Of course, it does make taking those all-important beauty shots a quite difficult endeavour when you don't really have any control and you don't have any damping ability available to you. But man, doesn't that look awesome, skimming along at that speed until it hits the surface and disintegrates because it has no shields at all. Still, at least it's the beta, so I can just reload back where I started. Now this is actually an earlier build of the Eagle. I have a bit more fuel, a bit more mass. It's not quite as agile, but it was daytime, which means that I can actually fly around and see what the other players are doing. Most of the other players are coming here and they're buying the biggest, pimpest ships. They're turning them into elite murder machines, and that's fantastic. You know, that's what this balancing pass is all about. But I'm having heck of fun just flying around in this agile little thing and occasionally getting shot at, like I am now. Oh joy. See you guys. See ya. Try to keep up. This is Commander Scott Manley requesting tower flyby. Oh wait, look, there's a clipper, cutter, I don't know, one of those Imperial ones. Maybe he wants to dance. So we just have to figure out, we have to perform the mating dance of the Gutamaya spacecraft. Turn around, leaving nice smoke trails behind me. Look at that. And of course, fire those engines. Look at how long it takes to slow down in reverse. Oh, he's coming for me, 7 kilometers out. He will just be surprised at how fast I moved. Commander Dark Phoenix. Except Dark Phoenix only has the white paint job. Ha! I'm a proper Dark Phoenix because I have a black paint job, yes. You amateur. Just kidding. Now, let's dance in circles around here. And here we see the mating dance of the Gutamaya spacecraft. This is, of course, how little spacecraft are created. This is, of course, how the fighters are created, right? Just need to do this dance with one of the cutters and then just have it poop out a fighter right at the end, right? At the climax. One thing that did happen is because I messed up my setup a little, this thing really overheated horrifically. I was using an overcharged power plant that was generating way more power than I actually needed to. All I really needed to do was make the power plant generate more, have lower mass, and I ended up supercharging it so much that the heat increase was causing this thing to overheat just because I was flying sideways. Here we go. Oh, yes, buzzing the tower. If only there was atmosphere, I would be leaving sonic booms here. Well, since it was nighttime, I decided to come back home to the solar system to fly through Saturn's rings, making like Cassini, except that Cassini's going a lot faster and can't change course, whereas I can look awesome as I slip between these giant icebergs in space at 800 meters per second. At least until I smash into one because I decide to spend time admiring its Black Friday paint job instead. Near Saturn is, of course, the moon Dion. Well, there's many moons, but this is the one I have chosen to visit because it has some very obvious crevasses that I can exploit. It also has a bit of a haze on the surface, so the surface definition doesn't look quite as clear, I guess, as I would like. But whatever, we have our crevasse, and we intend to fly down it quickly. Okay. Oh, no. There, excellent. Okay. Let's try and get down into that neatly. There we go. Beautiful entry there. Professional in every single way. It's nice we can see Saturn hanging out there on the horizon. So, funny thing about Dion is I looked it up, and the orbital velocity at this altitude should be something around 361 meters per second, which means that I'm actually moving more than twice the orbital velocity. So while I'm flying down these canyons, what I'm really doing is firing my engines to stay down. So if I turn off my thrusters, and, well, if I had actually maintained attitude correctly, I wouldn't be spinning. So here I am moving at 763 meters per second. That is more than the escape velocity. And because I'm going so fast and I've turned off my engines, instead of falling down, I will of course start to fall upwards, right, into the sky. So I can of course spend all the time I want to admire my beautiful Black Friday paint job. Look at it! It's gorgeous. I guess everybody else that wanted this that didn't pre-order Horizons, they have to pay for it through the... as it was a midnight paint job apparently, and they only sell them on Black Friday every year. Well, I say every year, they've only done it 2 years in a row. The Imperial Eagle obviously, well, usually would have a pure white paint job. It's a very nice and shiny paint job. Those brown, yellowish bits there are actually reflections of the moon's surface. If I turn the camera around here, yeah, debug camera, you see the reflections change. I gotta say, I really wish they would make the debug camera a whole lot better. I'd like to move the debug camera further away. I'd like to lock the rotation of the camera relative to the universe rather than the spacecraft. But look, you can see here my vertical velocity has actually increased. Right, that's a little, there's 4 notches there next to my vertical, my altitude. So I am actually falling off into escape velocity, and I would continue to float around between the various moons of Saturn if I left this. But of course that begs the question, can you actually orbit planets? Well, of course you can. Well, this is a moon. Orbital velocity is about 300 meters per second, so instead of using the boost mode, I'm actually going to have to slow this spacecraft down to close to the orbital velocity, right? So 361 is what I got for this altitude. I'm going to overcook it just a little so that we get an eccentric orbit and we'll go out and then fall back down. I don't know. I don't want to be too close because there may be errors in this. Yeah, the funny thing is, of course, it doesn't matter what orientation I take at this point because the spacecraft will not fall up or down. There we go. So just get this lined up perfectly. That looks pretty perfect. Disable the engines and now float around like some 21st century rocket ship that doesn't have reactionless thrusters. Anyway, from this point, we are in for a pretty long orbit. This does not have time acceleration like Kerbal Space Program, so you pretty much have to watch everything happen in real time, and I wanted to get that whole orbit happening. But hey, it does give me a good chance to talk about the changes that were introduced. I kind of brushed on this earlier, but yeah, so it's a combat balance pass that they're doing. One of the things they're adjusting is how fixed versus gimbaled weapons happen. So, like, fixed weapons are now going to have bigger ammunition drums. They're going to have faster reload. The gimbal ones will have slower reload. And fixed lasers will have a reduction to their power drain. Also, they're going to reduce the tracking of gimbaled weapons, the tracking angle, and they're going to now link it to the ship versus the ship sensors. So there will be an advantage to having better sensors if you're flying with gimbaled weapons. There's some other stuff. They're going to add, obviously, the defensive modules, which I mentioned, that will protect your modules when you have no shields. That will be great for people that want to go full-on armor tanking. Cannons have had an increase in their damage because people basically weren't using them due to their many, many drawbacks. Plasma accelerators, well, they have other drawbacks. They're just like super, super hot. So they now have the plasma slug special effect, which means that they can consume fuel rather than ammunition. That's obviously an engineer effect that you have to unlock. They've reduced the reload time in all of them, and they've increased the damage by about 10%. But most interesting is that plasma accelerators now completely ignore the damage resistances, so it doesn't matter if you've got a ship that's been set up to have high resistances. Tough luck, the plasma accelerator will totally bypass these. On the laser side of things, there has been some adjustments to beam versus burst lasers. So the beam lasers now are much better at, they require less reactor power, but the burst lasers are much better at taking your capacitor energy that you've put in your power distributor and converting it into damage. Torpedoes had previously been essentially completely countered by ECM. So now ECM bursts are gonna just disable the guidance for a few seconds, and then it'll reacquire the target. So it'll buy you time, but it won't eliminate the danger altogether. Frag Cannons, they get reduced reload time and also reduced armor piercing. So now they're really good at taking down shields early on, but because their armor piercing is weak, you kind of need to have a backup weapon to finish off the target. But perhaps most interestingly, this is the reboot system. So if you're in trouble and you have to reboot the systems to get some system back online, now they're going to pre-charge the shields to 50%. Assuming that you are moving slowly. So this is a way to get your shields back online quickly, but of course you become even more of a sitting duck while doing so. One other thing that is kind of unrelated to this patch cycle that has been revealed is the PlayStation 4 version has officially been announced. It was tagged on to the end of a new trailer for the game. Anyway, eventually I do complete the orbit. It took about 2 hours and 40 minutes or thereabouts. I came back with almost the same altitude and practically the same velocity, so the approximation that Elite uses for its physics is good enough to actually simulate orbits around some planets. The only downside is, of course, that the spacecraft simply don't move fast enough to orbit places like, Mercury or the Moon. I might actually have to pay a visit to Mercury to see if I can get on some sort of super fast elliptical orbit near the surface just for giggles. But anyway, hope to see you in space sometime. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.